Aloha, everybody. Kolo here from the Warrior Women in the World of Entrepreneurship podcast. I'm your host, and today is going to be another great episode with another wonderful warrior woman in the world of entrepreneurship. So I hope that you guys enjoy the show. Please don't forget to check out Anchor Fitness. They have an incredible cable machine that you can bring anywhere. I use it all the time with my clients here at Tasco Fit Martial Arts and Fitness, and also with the Hawaii hurling team to help build that strength for sport specific motions. So you can use our code with them when you're going to check out, and that's going to be Tasco Fit 11. So definitely check that out. It's going to change the game for you, your clients, and if you have a small gym, to use that. So enjoy the show, guys, and I hope to hear from you soon. Aloha, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Warrior Women in the World of Entrepreneurship podcast. I'm your host, Kolo, and I'm joined here today with the founder of Athena Fight Wear, Samantha Capello. So she's out in Singapore right now, and we were able to make this time work, and I'm so excited to be able to talk about Athena Fight Wear. I see it all over Instagram, probably because I teach martial arts, so I'm targeted for it, but it's such an amazing brand. I've seen more about it, and just, I love the concept of it, right? Like, because there's not enough that fits females, even in basketball, like, right? In so many sports, we don't get very specific outfits that will fit us. And a lot of the time it's a little too small for all people, right? And tie shorts are also really small. But what I like about your company so far and what I've read about it, it's more like kind of yoga meets also like fearsome and fight, and not having to choose between both of that, right? Like combining the feminine with that fight and like fearsome aspect of it. And I absolutely love that. So Samantha, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me on. I feel really honored to have been asked to do this, and really glad to connect with you and any other female warriors out there who are starting business.
Absolutely. So I couldn't find too much on you either on the website. I tried to look you up like on the internet. Maybe I didn't have like the last name, but I was like founder of Athena Fight Wear. So you are saying a little inconspicuous on there, and that's okay. But I'm really honored to have you on here today. And I'm hoping that we can learn a little bit more about you and just how and why you started your business. So were you raised in Singapore? Were you always there, or kind of how did you end up there, and how did you end up starting the business?
Well, so I'm actually Australian, which you can probably hear from my accent. And I only just moved to Singapore about 5 years ago with my family. So my husband and my child. And we just came here, just for work and for living. So not specifically for the company. Actually, the company started after we moved here. And it was just after COVID, like after things sort of started settling down, that I decided to take up Muay Thai, because before it I used to do partner dancing, and I was big on dancing. I actually came from like a more of a dancing background, and we couldn't do that here because the restrictions were really tight. So, with that completely out of the picture, I wanted to try something new, and I'd always wanted to do martial arts. It just never really kind of, came up for me. And so I finally decided to join one of the gyms here in Singapore called Evolve MMA, which is, most people probably have heard about it because it's connected to One Championship. So I started that, and it was kind of like this whole new world opened up to me. I never realized how big it was, and the idea kind of came from there, and it just all kind of rolled into what it is today.
Because they probably required you to wear Muay Thai shorts for Muay Thai, obviously, yeah?
Well, the funny thing is, actually, it's really silly when I look back on it. When I first started, actually, like for the first year, I didn't want to wear Muay Thai shorts because I felt like I didn't deserve it. Like in the sense that I felt like I was such a beginner. I'm not good enough to wear these cool flashy shorts. Only the advanced people are wearing it. So I never wore it. I just never did it. And then finally I got to a point where I was like, okay, you know what? All my friends have got it. I'm gonna try it out now. I'm gonna buy some Muay Thai shorts. I did. Obviously, Thai sizing is a lot different. And I got them and they were super, super tiny and I couldn't even get it past like one thigh, basically. So I returned it, got a bigger size, tried it on again, couldn't get it past both my thighs, and then returned it and tried it again. And then, when it finally like just fit my thighs, it was really big around the waist. And I was just like, oh, I give up. So like from then on, I just never bought Muay Thai shirts. So most people wear it, and then I just got frustrated with it. And that's probably one of the main points as well that made me want to start Athena, because I was like, all of this stuff, like all these amazing designs out there, they're great on men, they look cool on men, and on women as well. But you can just see that it's cut for men that are like this. Not like this. So, yeah. So yeah, that's kind of backstory behind the Muay Thai shorts as well.
For those that are listening and not watching this on YouTube, it was more of a narrow or straight up and down. And obviously women have a little bit more curves. That's okay. Let's just go watch it on YouTube for that version. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right too. And it's nice to have that specifically to you, especially when you're throwing knees or anything else. It's like ends up being really tight around that area and you feel like you have to rip the shorts.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially when you're a bit heavier bottomed and you're like, oh yeah, this could go bad.
It's like just that one false move, or it'll just restrict you, which is also really annoying too. It's just like,
or it just cuts into your legs, you just, you get these marks on your, so it's never fun, but yeah, that's why I'm here to change that.
Exactly. So Samantha, have you ever created a business before? Is this your first venture with entrepreneurship, or what's your background like with that?
So I actually do have another business, and it's the business that I had before this, which is still running now. It's it's the biggest part of my journey of becoming a business owner. It's where it's like the foundation where I learned to own a business and grow it, and it's vastly different to what Athena is, because it came from my past hobby of dancing. So I have a footwear company that stemmed out of the need for nice female footwear that had a vintage style, but was easy and comfortable to wear and didn't have a heel. So effectively, I call it like a mullet shoe, because it's, on the top it looks like a heel, on the bottom it's a flat. It's, practical. And so I have that company, and I started that quite a few years ago when I was still working in like a regular corporate job. And I was very lucky, I guess, to land in a job at that point, which was all about marketing, but more from a kind of business ownership standpoint. So it was all marketing, but we also learned how to effectively manage a business and manage a brand. And that's kind of where I got that first kind of glimpse, and it was like a training ground for me to learn how to take a brand, to market it and to grow it and to manage it. And then from there, I started my own business, which is the footwear company. It's called Charlie Stone Shoes. And it was a journey, I'll tell you. Like, it was a journey and a half.
Yeah, I mean, definitely feel free to talk about that, because I think the origin story of that is really important for the rest of us. Like, obviously, like, you're doing Athena Fight Wear now, and that's got its own journey as well, but knowing even how to begin all of this, I think is very important for our listeners out there too. So yeah, please definitely feel free to go in with that. And what was the name of, I'm sorry, the other company?
So the other company is Charlie Stone Shoes.
Got it. Okay.
So when I first started that, I wasn't quite pregnant yet at that point. But, the idea came, and I started with real tiny, tiny baby steps, because I was still working full time at that point. It's a lot of capital to put in as well, and I didn't want to take out a loan. Like, I used my own savings to start. And footwear in general is quite expensive, high MOQs, and it's not the easiest thing to kind of run out of the back of your house, which I did for a while, and it was it gets a bit messy and it gets quite difficult, but it's manageable. But with footwear, it outgrows your house very quickly. And then I had my child, and I went on maternity leave, and it was quite perfectly timed because it gave me this space. And in Australia, you get quite a bit of maternity leave. We get up to like 12 months, not paid, but we are able to get that time. So I took quite a fair few months off of the corporate job so that I could focus on the child and also on creating the business and starting to grow it. So at that point, it only had, I had a few customers, and I was sending a bit of volume out, and it was doing fairly well. But we could see that kind of inflection point on when it could start to grow exponentially, and It was coming. And I knew that, I just had to keep pushing it in the right direction, and I would get there. So in the time that I spent on maternity leave, I was working through it was very like experimental, it was working through a lot of different styles of marketing, a lot of different kind of touch points, through direct to consumer to wholesale. And I was navigating through all of this completely blind. So, I did, I had a bit of that background of brand management, and I knew how to work my P&Ls. I knew how to kind of work my way financially. But beyond that, knowing how wholesale worked, or, distribution and supply chain and logistics and all of that stuff around what makes a business beyond just a nice brand logo and some products, that was all, I was going through it pretty much blind, which I don't really recommend, but it's a very steep but very good learning process. It's
yep.
Yeah. You'll really learn everything about business when you do it that way, and when you get your hands into everything. So my biggest thing, I guess one of my strengths that really helped me get past this point of I'm struggling, and then becoming this business that really just kind of took off and got some stability and consistency was being able to DIY a lot. So whenever people ask me, like, how do you manage everything? One of it was outsourcing. So like I said, the shoes outgrew my home, so I outsourced. Everything became outsourced, and then everything became DIY'd in the sense of, okay, if you don't know how to, if you don't have someone like a tech to do your barcodes or pack tech, you learn how to do it yourself. It takes a lot of reading, a lot of time, but that's what the late nights are for, you don't know how supply chain works, you learn, or you talk to somebody and you learn about it, you just learn. And that was it for like a couple of years. It was just learning every part. It was learning everything about the warehouse, the factory. I went to visit the factories, learning about every small detail, like the packaging and the logistics of getting, this piece to here, to getting it packed here and put together here and sent to the warehouse and onto the consumer. It was just a lot of learning. So yeah. And then it kind of got to a point where it was a very steep curve, and like, I know again this is video, but like imagine a really, really, really steep hill here.
Hand almost vertical.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you're basically doing like bouldering, like just rock climbing here at this point. Yeah, and it's a really tough climb. And then when I figured out how to really automate and outsource almost most processes, then that's when the hill started to flatten a little bit. It got a lot easier. And so, yeah, since then, now, however many years down the track, I don't even know how many years, maybe 7 or 8 years now since I started, I can't remember. Now it's gotten to a point where it chugs along by itself, like it's quite self-sustained. So it gives me back time to, work on other things, more important things like strategy or financials, things like that. And that whole building block of learning became the stepping stone for what allowed me to create Athena, and for me to create Athena in a way that made sense quite quickly. Like I was able to establish what I wanted as a brand, my brand voice, the look, the message, everything. It became quite solid quite quickly because I had all that background. There was many years of practice beforehand. So with Athena, I kind of knew this is, these are the steps to get, the basic stuff done. These are the steps to take in order to create what I want to, and these are the steps to take in order to push it out to my consumer, and to my audience. So yeah, it's kind of like these two lifetimes that I've lived, and it's quite funny. Because I look at it and they're connected and they run alongside each other now, but it really feels like two different me's that have gone through it. Yeah.
I mean, because the first was such like a in-depth process, and now it's like you already have that layout. You basically made that road paved for your next business. And every business is going to be different, just like in martial arts, right? You go to a different school, it's a different curriculum, but you still have a base level of something. Although sometimes you have to, like, I don't even want to say relearn, but you just have to learn something different, right? I almost don't like when somebody says relearn. I mean, although you are, but it's just like you're just learning a different way to do something. And in this case, again, you kind of can use the same formula because, again, it is product and brand based. And that's pretty incredible. So I just have a quick question. So how long did it take you? How long before was it before you outsourced your, like, for the shoe business, the Charlie Stone shoes? Like, how long were you doing that out of your house for?
Oh, probably maybe 2 years, 1.5 years or 2 years. Or maybe even less. It was, and that was when it was kind of like really a side project, everybody kind of starts when they start a business. It's always a side project first, because obviously there's a lot of risk in just quitting your day job straight away and just jumping into something new. So it was really a side thing at that point. And I didn't have too much inventory. So I think it was about 1.5 years from what I remember. And it was like, it's like every small business, how it starts, right? You always start like packing your own orders, and it's really nice. Like that's probably one of the best parts about starting a business is getting the orders in and doing it yourself and seeing the names of the people that you're sending things to, and it feels like you're sending to friends, and it's quite nice. And you see where they are in the world as well. Like, when you're from like Australia and you're so far away from everyone, you're like, oh, where's this country? Like, I'm sending all the way across to the other side of the earth to this person here. So yeah, like that's a really cool bit as well. So how long are you still with that? It doesn't sound like, but are you still with that corporate job, or no? When did you feel comfortable enough to leave it, if you did leave it? And if you're still with it, why do you choose to stay? So the corporate job I left fairly soon after I went back after maternity leave, because, as I said, like in maternity leave, that's when I started to really build and grow the brand. And then when I returned to work, I had essentially like a full-time job working on this brand, and then a part-time plus job working at this corporate job. And it got to a point, it was a pretty tough point, because I was probably sleeping about 3 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
It was, I'd wake up early in the morning, I'd work on the brand, I'd go to work, do the work, like, that work, the corporate work. At lunchtime, I would work on my brand, then go home, look after my kid, and then stay up late, work on the brand, try to sleep, wake up, for the baby. And it was really tough. Like it was like 3 hours, 4 hours a day, every day. And it was relentless. And like that point, I knew, I was like, okay, I can't, this is not sustainable. Like when your own business gets big enough to, like, at a point where you are pretty much going to burn out because you're working 2 full-time jobs, then and when the money that comes back to you kind of matches what you're already making at a corporate job, you're like, well, do I really need to be killing myself, to be making that?
And for someone else's goals jobs? Too.
Exactly. Yeah. And especially when you see that your own business could grow even further, there's kind of no point, in pushing yourself that far. And yeah, it kind of came down to a point of, okay, I looked at what my business could do, where it could go, what it could become for me, both, like from a kind of salary point of view, and also what it could give me in terms of a lifestyle, working for myself. And just the pros ended up outweighing the cons in a very big way. Well, and like I knew that, if worst comes to worst, I could just go back into another job. Like it's just, one corporate job in this kind of industry, you kind of just go anywhere, you get the same job. So,
did you find that your husband was quite supportive of you doing your own business, or was it kind of like, I don't know?
He's been 100% supportive the entire time. Like he's been the one who's really pushed me to do it. Like thank goodness for him. Like he's the rock behind, when I'm like flailing around and panicking about something. He's actually the one who created the name for the first company. Because it's a fun story.
Yeah, go ahead, go for it.
He's Italian. Journey. Yeah, he's Italian, and hence the name Capello. Mm-hmm. And he has a fair bit of an Italian accent. Like I'm quite desensitized to it now. I can't hear it, but he's still definitely got it. And we were talking about some of the dances that I do, which are like they're like traditional African American dances, like Lindy Hop, like from the 1940s, 1920s. And there's one dance called the Charleston, which most people know is from the 20s. Mm-hmm. But when he says Charleston, it comes out as Charleston. And I was like, oh, that's funny. It sounds like a name. And that's kind of where it came out from. And actually he created the name Athena as well. So he's the inspiration behind the names for both businesses.
All right, Mr. Capello, I hear you. That's it's super important, though, I think, whether it's a husband, partner, or just even someone in your family or just someone you've mentored under that is supportive of what you're doing. You might not always get that, though, either, and sometimes you also have to learn to be okay with that, which I think is tough, because then you can feel a little bit more alone, but also I think sometimes that's a part of the challenge, and that might be a part of that growth. You have to, and it's not anything necessarily negative towards those who aren't. It's just everybody's got their own stuff going on, right? But I think it is best when you can support each other, right? Like, and even in this world, like, again, warrior women in the world of entrepreneurship, right? It's about like collaboration. Like you're now a part of this community as well, Sam. And it's just, reach out to anybody that you've heard on this podcast, or, reach out to me. And if there's anyone you're interested in talking to, like maybe I can make that connection. And I think everybody who has been on here has talked about collaboration, and of course there's always competition, but honestly, I think there's a place for, maybe not for everyone, but there's a place for everything. There's a lot of people out there, and not everything is gonna fit everyone. So I think that's super important, again, just to have that support. So good on you, Mr. Capello, for supporting your wife and just being that rock. I think that's commendable and just awesome. Yeah. Like that's a great partnership, like both in marriage and in work.
It's like, and you're right. Like it doesn't always have to be, your spouse or someone who is, kind of there every single day. Just having customers, believe in you, and what your mission is. Having, really just hearing anyone say, oh, wow, like, I get it. I get what you're doing, and I feel the same. Like I have been on the same journey, or I can relate to that. That already, I think, makes you feel so much less alone.
It's like an affirmation.
It is, yeah. And especially when you're a woman starting a business, that's already, kind of a niche, becoming less of a niche, which is fantastic. I mean, this podcast can obviously prove that. But, obviously maybe 10 years ago or something, it's when starting a business, there were a lot more kind of barriers to that. Like now it's opened up a lot more. Maybe about 10 years ago to 15 years ago, it was a lot more difficult. And, like having the community was small, but it's there, and that's what matters. As long as you have some kind of some small affirmation somewhere, that's kind of the spark that you need to just keep going. You just keep that flame alive, and you just keep working. So
yeah. I think like I said, I think both are necessary, actually, right? Like sometimes you need that fire from someone else to either, and not just not believe in you, right? It's just because that's just annoying, but you're going to get that anyway, right? Because not everybody's going to like you or what you're doing, and that's fine. That's really none of our business, as hard as that is to swallow. But again, just to have at least that one person or just like you said, your customers just being there to just kind of like reaffirm that what you're doing is making a difference, and not just for your life, but for others. And I think that is why we go into business, of course, for our life and our interests and what we love. And, yours are very solution based, which is really cool. Like, and obviously like personal solutions, right? You're like, well, I need a better shoe and it's not existent right now. I need better shorts and they're not they're not in the way that I need them to be. So problem solver right here. So, and not only did you do it for yourself, but you found a way to share it with others so that, again, you get profit from it and everyone can kind of rock Athena Fight Wear shorts. Yeah. So let's go into that a little bit too, right? So we talked about Charlie Stone shoes and kind of how you're able to transition into that, into Athena Fight Wear a lot easier from that. When did that come about, Athena Fight Wear? I mean, you talked about when you moved to Singapore and you did all that, but like what year did you begin that? And like, how has the journey been since then? What also what have also been your biggest issues in both businesses, like along those journeys? Has it been similar issues that you found? Sorry, loaded questions on all these counts.
That's all right.
They're flowing.
You might have to remind me later. Yeah.
No worries. Yeah, just kind of, let's start with just when did Athena Fight Wear begin? What year was that?
Cool. So, like because of COVID years, like actually, like the numbers, it's all a blur. But what was it? When did COVID happen?
2020.
2020. So it would have been 2021.
It was a COVID baby.
Yeah.
As a lot of businesses were.
Yes. Athena was a COVID baby. That's it. I think it was, 2020, should be 2021 or like end of 2020 when I started Muay Thai. I remember starting, and I started with this feeling of, which most women probably feel when they enter a Muay Thai gym, or any kind of martial arts gym. Like you just feel really small and kind of nervous and shy, and that reflected onto what I wore at the beginning. So it was, just really plain clothing and long shirts, and like in Singapore it's hot, so normally normally you're sweating already. Just I'm like sweating,
just walking,
sitting down, doing nothing. Exactly.
Hawaii similar.
Oh yeah, true. So yeah, and I remember starting off and just feeling really kind of self-conscious, and then that magical thing happens when you do martial arts, is that your confidence out of nowhere just kind of skyrockets. That feeling where you're like, hold on, I'm pretty badass. Like, I can do this. Like, I can kick so much harder than I thought. Like, oh my God, that punch just landed perfectly. Like, who is this guy? And I remember like that confidence kind of gradually grew, and that also reflected on what I wore. I started feeling more confident wearing nicer things, or just going in a shorts and sports bra rather than covering up with leggings and a shirt and all that. Also helps with the amount of laundry you do.
Yep.
And then I'm I kind of got to a point where I was like, I really want to like have nice things to wear, because in Singapore the activewear style, it's quite, I guess, it's got its own kind of personality. Like here, sportswear and activewear is really nice. Like it just looks really good, and women look amazing, and especially like the yoga girls, like, which is kind of where the idea came from. The women who do yoga, spin classes, lifting, that kind of stuff. Like they have really nice looking outfits and aesthetics. Like the color coordinated stuff. the nice crossback. It was also during a time where like a lot of the crossback sports bras were coming out, and they just looked really good. The crop tops. So rather than like just the sports bra, like a racer back, they were having these nice kind of crop tops with the crossback as well. And I was like, wow, these women look really, really nice. And like, I might buy some of that and wear it. And so I started doing that. And I was like, at the same time, I was kind of torn because I also wanted to wear the cool stuff that the other people were wearing, which were like T-shirts with Muay Thai on it, or like one championship, or, you know, like mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, yeah, that's really cool too, because that really reps what I love. And like, it's not just at the gym, like, you know, going out. When you spot people, you're like, hey,
Yeah.
you know, you like what I like. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you spot your people, you find your people through that. And so I was kind of torn between like, I really want to wear a cool shirt that says, you know, mixed martial arts or something. But at the same time, I kind of wanted to look nice. And I wanted, you know, I also admire the women who look so elegant and just, you know, very like put together.
Yeah.
Because when I'm training, I don't look put together.
Yeah, I don't know that no one stays put together like during training. I mean, maybe that, you know, a couple people, but it's very hard because you go in looking real nice like that. You come out like one of those straps is off, you know, hair's all messed up. Makeup's running.
You look like you've been in like the, you know, a washing cycle or something.
Mm-hmm.
But and then that's kind of where it started coming out from. And I had this idea of, you know what, maybe I'll make a T-shirt that has something on it. I'm going to make, actually it's the one I'm wearing, but it's one of the shirts that has a couple of the martial arts written on it.
Yeah.
So it's like Muay Thai, kickboxing, boxing, jiu-jitsu. And I was like, yeah, you know, I'll just make my own one.
Yeah.
You know, I'll do that. I'll wear it myself. And then I had a couple friends there as well, and I showed them and I told them about my idea, and they were like, oh, these are pretty cool. And they liked it as well, and they liked the designs. I was like, oh, actually, you know what? Maybe I should see who else wants one of these and see if this concept can be expanded, because, you know, I like all those Muay Thai shorts, but I don't feel confident in going out and something that has, you know, like bright orange, gold, you know, like Muay Thai written on it and just looking like I should be a fighter, but really I'm still starting off. And yeah, so it all kind of stemmed from all these feelings I had of insecurity or wanting to wear something that, you know, complemented my personal style, my, you know, just like as a female, you know, just, you know what, all the sportswear that you see out there by all the other big brands, like, you know, the women's stuff is really nice and it's obviously catered to women. Yeah, so start off with just a couple of small things. So the tank top being one of them, and then also the first shorts that I made, which were kind of like what I wanted out of Muay Thai shorts, like that kind of like kickboxing style shorts, but nothing too flashy. So it was kind of really made for those beginners who felt like they wanted something a little bit more, something that made them feel like, I'm kickboxing or I'm doing Muay Thai. This is cool. And those were the Athena shorts, which are, you know, like they're plain black, but they have a strip of gold that goes around the edges. And yeah, that was kind of like to emulate the, you know, the that
Grecian
kind of
and
look.
like.
Yeah, and it was also kind of that look that you get from Muay Thai shorts where they have the gold trimming. Usually it's like a very, very bright, shiny kind of gold. So I used much more of a kind of subtle, almost like a champagne kind of gold, which is kind of the theme throughout the whole brand, black and this kind of lighter champagne-ish gold, rather than that really bright, almost hot lava gold, that tacky. I don't want to say tacky, but it just kind of is a bit, you know, that,
I mean, the joke is too, like the Muay Thai shorts that are like the loudest, or, you know, it's almost like peacocking, right? It's like, you know, those were the most colors, are like the most decorated. Yeah.
Like, and I love them, and I love all the designs as well. But, you know, like sometimes some of us just feel like, I don't feel comfortable wearing that because it's not reflective of how I feel or what I want to say. And I always, and like I always kind of say that what we wear on the day, it's almost a reflection of what we want to say for that, or like how we're feeling that day. Sometimes I'm like, well, I feel a little bit like I just want to, I'm just there to just get things done, and I don't want to stand out. It's just going to be like black t-shirt, black shorts, or maybe another day I have my period. I'm going to wear everything black, wear double layers of shorts or something. Or another day it's like, you know what? It's a sunny day. I feel good. I'm going to wear bright colors anyway, so I'm going to go for some color, match the top and the shorts. Why not? So, and there's a reason why other brands are making all these nice things, because that's already proving that we want to wear what we want to say, what we want to show to the world. And it shouldn't be any different with martial arts. Men already have so many cool designs that show off what their personality is, big dragons down the back and lions and, all these wild designs and big, words that across their chest that are loud and bold. And so they already have that. And I just felt that there was a huge gap for women to say the same thing, but in a female way, like from a female voice. We just didn't have our voice out there. It was always
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's always like a male brand or male designed brand, a company, making what they think women would like, which is generally the same thing as men, but smaller, or pink, just variations of pink. So, yeah.
That's actually funny that you say that too, because I started an Irish hurling team here in Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you're familiar with hurling, but it's like an ancient Irish sport. It's still played today, and it's like a mix of like hockey, soccer, sort of basketball, though that's more of like Gaelic football. But anyway, so they call it hurling for the men's team, and then they call it camogie for the women's team, but they're the same sport. Like it's basically like how we have here, like the NBA and the WNBA.
Yeah.
I get. Okay. Like you can like women's national basketball. Okay. But the fact that they call it two different names, and then I learned like common is like the stick that we use, the hurley, like in Irish, and then og just means small. So camogie came or derived from that. And of course, hey, if anybody's listening and you feel like, proving to me that that's incorrect, go for it. But it's still silly that we call it two different names. Like, unless it was like something wonderful and beautiful about it. But no, it's just smaller stick. Like the women use the smaller stick. I'm like, are you serious? Why did we call it something different? And again, it's just disrespectful because it's like, the women want to play too
just
here,
the women's one. Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah. Just give them something. It's like giving them an Xbox controller that's not plugged in. Like, yeah,
right. Fuck. Yeah. Sorry, you can curse on this podcast too.
Okay, cool.
But it's just like, why are we still doing this? Like, okay, it's one thing if you take hold of like the name and the power, but it's like, just call it hurling is my opinion. You know what I mean? Because that's the integrity of the sport. Like, there's no, it doesn't have to be that necessarily gender about it unless you just call it women's hurling. Cool. So that's my goal. But it's funny that you're saying that with those shorts. Like, well, it's just like this, but smaller. It's like, no, it's not.
That's what women are, right? Just a small version of us. Like that's what they are. Or the funnier thing was when you go into a website and you're like, women's section, and you click it, and it's just the men's stuff. That's just like, they literally haven't even taken a photo of the item on a female body. Like, you have a picture of the shorts with this massive crotch on bulging out of it, and you're like, that's not a woman's body,
like that is not it. No.
Yeah, that ain't it, guys.
But yeah, it's just, it's interesting. So it's good that you were able to do that. Again, it's just, I guess, where did you, through your first business, but where did you find the confidence, or I'll even say the gumption to start these businesses? Again, it was like, okay, there needs to be a solution to this problem, but half the people will be like, well, nobody else has made it, I guess I'll just suffer through whatever is there. Like, what gave you that confidence or understanding that you could do that? I know you said that you learned through the corporate job that you had, right? Or was it through college?
No, it was through the corporate job the corporate job is what gave me the skills to maintain and manage the business. So anything that came before a brand that already existed, that again was that whole blind navigation thing. Like
Yeah.
and like I look back on it and I actually have no idea. Like I actually don't even remember at what point was I like, yeah, I'm going to do it. Like I don't remember why or how. I guess maybe, I don't know, I was sleep deprived and I was like, yeah, I can do this. I'm not sure, but that's like, I know that normally at the beginning there's this kind of uncertainty of, oh, should I not? And I definitely did go through that. It's usually when you're starting to put together the numbers, that's when you start to feel it. And, obviously I would have done the same for Athena, but because I had already gone through the process before, and also because apparel, it's a lot, I feel it's a bit easier. I think after coming off footwear, which was like the technical side of footwear was just so vast and complex that going into apparel was a lot easier. And then already having like, I don't know if you guys do this in the US, but like in Australia in school, you kind of learn a little bit of, textile and design. You learn a little bit about, making clothing and sewing and things like that. So you kind of have this basic idea of like, yeah, this is what a inner seam is, and what a hem is, and the technical parts of apparel were not as daunting. But footwear definitely was. So before starting the footwear company, I think it was just like when I was starting to crunch the numbers, yes, I was super I was very nervous and very anxious about it because it was a fair bit of capital to put in. I don't even remember how much it was, but I just remember thinking, okay, this is a little bit of a risk. I don't know how it's going to come out. And the way I think I got through that was really, really through baby steps. Everything I have ever done has been baby steps to the max, like the tiniest little things that, steps that you can take. And it's always my recommendation. Like, if you say you're going to start a company, like a business, don't go out there and throw $3,000 on building a website. Don't spend 50 grand on getting inventory made across 100 different products. Don't set up a team of 20 people, to run an office yet, unless you've got the capital and you've got investors, and you're really going to do it properly. If you're just like a small business owner, especially a mum or someone who's not going to be able to commit a lot of time, do everything as tiny as possible, because that will save you. Because along the way you will find a million mistakes, and through that you will learn and then take the next baby step and improve, and then you'll find a million other mistakes, and each time you take those small steps you improve. Whereas if you were to just take one big risk, you'd have so much stuff to get through. By the time you take that next step, the improvement isn't as big as what you could have done if you had taken a lot of little ones, if that makes sense. So with the footwear, like, for example, I started off with the smallest amount of inventory possible. I searched like high and low for a supplier who would help me have the absolute smallest MOQs, even if that means that the prices are higher. You just go small. It doesn't matter. You just go small. So because I started off, with like I can't remember how many, but it's just like a tiny amount of inventory, 2 styles or something. From there, I found improvements. I got feedback. I started figuring out how to market it a little bit differently. And then from there, I was like, okay, next lot of inventory. I know I can fix this. I can change this. I can, do this, and then I market it this way. So each time, each step was very, very small, but incrementally became, you improve so much faster that way, I find. And it also minimizes the risk, so that you're nervous. You are nervous, but the way to jump doesn't seem as deep. Because I think that's what scares a lot of people at the beginning when they think, I want to start a business. I have a great idea. And like 99% of the time, people will say, I have an idea, but they don't go through with it because it feels like it's really far to jump. And, you know, even if they have the money, they have the support, it just feels like a long way to jump when you haven't done it before. So, you know, if you just minimize that drop, so it's just like a step down, then it's not as daunting. And I think that's partly why I went through with it. I think that's partly why I actually started it, because it started off small. I made that step quite shallow so that it wasn't so scary. And so each time it's just a little staircase going down. Like it's not just a jump. And then with Athena, it was a little bit more of a jump, but because it's like you kind of, you know how to swim at that point, you know, you're not jumping in and, you know, without a life jacket. At that point, you know, I know how to swim. I kind of know what I'm doing. So I took a little bit more risk, but at the same time, I still started off small. Like I only started off with a few pieces because I wanted to get feedback. Like first time doing apparel, like I know what apparel I want. But that's only one experience, you know?
Right.
I need to understand the experience of many others, of many different body types, of many different styles of martial arts. Like, you know, from the first production, like for example, like I find out, okay, sports bra needs to have this coverage in this area, a little bit less, more of a cut in this area. Like for example, you know, going from the shoulder down to the bust, I know that I need to fix this because it will work better for BJJ. It needs more coverage torso-wise for rolling and grappling. Oh, okay, maybe it needs to be more covered in the back for clinching, you know, or something like that. Like,
yeah,
you know, each time you take a small step, I found more improvements and like, yeah, it's still a bigger jump than from the first time, but again, it wasn't daunting because I know that I'm not going to go out and design 1,000 things, get it all made and end up stuck with inventory. Like, I think that's the worst part. And one of the mistakes that people make is they go out and they throw a lot of money into a lot of inventory, but then they forget that they need cash flow to come back.
Yeah.
So if you've created something that has, it might only be a minor flaw, but if that flaw is restricting you from getting your cash flow back, then, you know, you're stuck. You get stuck,
yeah.
And that's scary. I think that's quite scary. You're stuck with inventory. So.
Or building back, right? And even if that's happening, like I'm in that personal boat, right? Because I've like spent trying to kind of invest in myself and other things here, but it was an investment with credit cards and different things. Mm-hmm. So, you know, now I'm paying it back, which is the point of a credit card. However, it's more than I would have cared to be in at this moment. However, it is building back and it is coming back, but again, it's kind of just paying off those, like even the minimums, right? So now it's just trying to kind of like play with that, but I'm just going. I'm keeping going. I'm trying just to keep to the best I can and just make sure that people are still getting the quality of the martial arts that I am teaching them, of like the fitness that I'm teaching them. My heart is definitely in with the martial arts, and obviously you get a lot of fitness through that too, but I do have my master's in sports science as well. And yeah, I just love teaching Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee's art and concept, and Kali, Filipino martial arts is involved with that. Muay Thai is involved in that. Boxing is involved with that, both that and like the Filipino style, like Panantukan, which is technically a part of Kali as well. And there's so much in it too, like Savat, French kickboxing, at least within like where I learned. So
yeah, nice.
Very grateful to be able to do that. And again, it's so just kind of going back to that. It's like, even if you did do what I did, which, you know, I'm not enjoying that part of it, but it's not impossible to come out of it. It's just more time consuming, and it is a lot more, like, it's definitely more stressful, and I wouldn't necessarily advise it that way, but I tend to learn lessons the hard way. So
but you learn them, right? Like that's at the end of the day, that's the point. Like you said it just then, you keep going. And that's the main thing. Like, yeah, it's a tough and crappy lesson a lot of the time to learn, but you keep going. And as long as you do that, you know, you make it eventually. Like in your eyes, you might not see it as you make it, but like in others, like to others who would never have even started, you're already, way above what they could imagine achieving. So I think that's the main thing. You just keep going. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Just, and that's in every martial art, right? Just keep going.
It's difficult to. Sorry, go ahead.
It's oh no, I've forgotten what I said. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Well, no, you were just saying within martial arts, like you do learn that. I mean, sometimes, unfortunately, again, same thing with me with that. When I first started, and still I sometimes have that go on now too, but a little less so. It's just more different problems that I let happen. It's more like I would start and then I really enjoyed it and I loved it, but I would just get into my own head. I would be paying and not attending. And it's just like, I would just be self-conscious, kind of like what you were talking about, right? Like, whether I couldn't just last the warm-ups or whatever. And so like when I became an instructor, I always remembered that and tried to relay that to people as well, but also tried not to put my insecurities or previous experiences necessarily on everyone, because not everybody's experiencing that and they might want more of a challenge. So it's creating that opportunity for the people who want more of that challenge to be able to experience that, but also to let the people who are newer understand that, listen, you don't have to do that. Right? It's good if you let it motivate you. However, don't let it scare you. Just do what you can do. Not everybody's up at that level right now. So if you could just keep coming, it will get better. And, sometimes I really have to just give that lesson to myself still, because it's easier when personally I'm in it. You know what I mean? Like I was working at Anderson's Martial Arts Academy in New York City. And I was there and I was able to train. Like luckily, like later on down the road, I got to train a lot more, which I was so grateful for. Because in the beginning, I was only able to take like 1 or 2 classes, but that was still more than I was taking before, right? Because I was there every day and it was right there. So instead of having to make the trek to get in, right? So that's part of the problem, because you get comfortable at home, you get comfortable or tired after work, whatever the case is. So martial arts, if you let it and if you just go, right? Just go. Don't think about the warm up. You don't know what the instructor. Don't think about like, oh, I don't want to hit the bag for 30 minutes. Just turn up. Exactly. And just have fun.
And like, I think a lot of like I think that one of the biggest things I learned from martial arts, which translates into business, is discipline. Like like we're saying, like you just turn up and you develop this kind of discipline where it becomes very routine, and your brain kind of I remember hearing it from someone, I can't remember from who it was, but there comes a point where your brain gets rewired so that when you think about, okay, I have to turn up, there's a part of the brain that says, oh God, like it's a negative thing, and like, oh no, try to run, try to make an excuse. And then at some point when you keep doing it and you keep turning up, your brain gets rewired so that when you think about it, the same thing, oh, I need to go. Instead of, trying to make excuses, your brain has a different, like it gives your body a different message, and it's saying, okay, I'm now ready, let's do it. Like you look to, like, you kind of look at the step just in front of you rather than thinking of like the 30 minutes ahead of you that is going to suck. You look at what's in front of you. So you look at the next 2 minutes, 3 minutes, which feel like forever sometimes, but that's what you look at. And I think that it really translates well to business, because when you start to look at like, oh God, okay, what's going to happen if this doesn't happen, if this doesn't fly, doesn't sell, and then this comes crumbling down, you just look at what's in front of you and where you're at, and you kind of go from there. You just turn up and you just do it every day. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest things that's translated from martial arts over to business, and also, to be honest, back the other way as well. When you're disciplined in your work as well, you have that mindset to turn up and to just push as hard as you can.
That's awesome. Cool. And 100% agreed too. And it's so interesting. I'm definitely going to be looking into your brand more too, and hopefully we'll have a conversation after this. A lot of my students here at Tasco Fit Martial Arts and Fitness in Hawaii and on Oahu are women, and I'm very happy to have them too. And it's almost feeling like here's my nerdy self coming out, but like the island of Themyscira, you know, with all like the female like Amazons and the warriors. So, and I do have some male students too, and I'm trying to grow that as well. But I do appreciate those who are coming and maybe they wouldn't have entered it before. And yeah, so it's going to be nice to be able to kind of send them your way too for the Muay Thai shorts, because I do teach a Muay Thai class in one of the mornings too. So I have a question for you. You've kind of answered it already, but it's a little bit more specific. So if there's one thing you want our listeners, and our listeners range from maybe those who are looking to start a business, or those who already have a business, or even those who are like really successful in their business and maybe they're looking to partner up with anyone on here. If there's anything that you want them to take away from our conversation today and just in general of being an entrepreneur, what would that be?
I think it would be, the first one would just be to learn as much as you can, because the more knowledge you have, the more prepared you feel, and the less daunting things will be. And then the second one would be definitely about the baby steps, and it's all kind of building to making things feel more achievable and making things feel like it's closer in reach. So yeah, really just gaining all the knowledge you can, whether it's from the net, from mentors or people at work or your friends, family. Learn and then take the small steps, because small little things, they add up. Just like in martial arts, one day you go in, you do one push-up a day, and then before you know it, you're getting through 50. So it's all small little things that accumulate.
And they are perishable skills. That's both in entrepreneurship and martial arts. So always have to keep up that practice. If you leave it, then you're leaving that lesson for that day. So sometimes, yes, it's okay to have a break, but, still try to keep your mind active on it. And, of course, if you're experiencing that burnout, give yourself the break that you need, because if you just keep going like with your body, you're not going to be able to have that time to heal. But just like in fitness, there is active rest though. Active rest just means like you're not, being a total couch potato, right? You're either moving, you're just going for a nice walk, and then you can come back and sit, but you're not just sitting and letting everything just kind of tighten up again. So I think the same translates to obviously martial arts, that is fitness as well, and business. So, and then where can they find you? Both, you can definitely promote both companies on here if you like, the Charlie Stone shoes and the Athena Fight Wear. Where can they find those things, and where can they order from?
Sure, yeah. So for Charlie Stone, they can find us on Instagram, Charlie Stone Shoes. Otherwise, our website, charliestoneshoes.com. And for Athena, also on Instagram at Athena Fight Wear. And then the website's the same, athenafightwear.com.
Awesome. And I'm definitely going to link them in the description. So if you guys are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any of those things, just click to see the description, and it should be an automatic link. I usually just kind of put it right to the words there. So just click on that and it should bring it right up for you. And then on YouTube as well, same thing in there. And Sam, thank you so much for coming on today and just sharing your knowledge and, dealing with our technical difficulties and all that.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been such a pleasure. It's been really cool.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we can work out that timing. It actually worked out perfectly. Like that was like right after my class.
Surprisingly well. Yeah. I'm like, surely Hawaii is like a million miles away or different time zone completely, but it's actually turned out really well.
Yeah, because you're in the next day. So today is April 11th right now, and it's 8 p.m. at night. And for you, it's
2 p.m. on a Wednesday, 12th of April. Yeah. I'm in the future. Yeah.
You are in the future. I'm going back to the future. Awesome. Well, Sam, thank you so much for coming on, and hopefully I'll connect with you again, maybe just in a year or a few months from now, and just get you on the podcast again and just see where you're at, where the business is at. And like I said, hopefully we'll get some orders from Tasco Fit Martial Arts and Fitness over here too.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Paula. Hopefully one day I could actually come and visit you. I would love to visit Hawaii one day to see the Merry Monarch. So, hopefully one day.
Absolutely. Maybe get some Athena Fight Wear Hawaii version for you.
It'd be pretty cool. Hand wraps with a tropical theme. You never know.
I like it. I like the ideas already. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to all you listeners out there again for tuning in to another episode of Warrior Women in the World of Entrepreneurship podcast. And as always, stay tuned for the next episode. Mahalo and aloha. A big mahalo to all you listeners out there for tuning in to another episode of Warrior Women in the World of Entrepreneurship podcast. I'm so grateful that we've got another round of incredible warrior women for this season 2. And thank you so much for listening into season 1. If you have not already, please do so. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, basically any audio listening platform, and also YouTube, because I've been posting them on there. So guys, keep tuning in and please let us know what you think. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and just also download them off of those audio platforms. It helps us so much, and just keeping up the positivity. If you have anybody that you know who you would love to hear on this podcast, please send them our way and we'll get them on. Have a great day, everyone, and stay tuned for the next episode.